Did you learn growing up that saying no was impolite or even inconsiderate? That it wasn't what a good person does, for instance? Well, yeah, so did I. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Inspire series. My name is Sylvia Mordini, the founder of Life Inspired, and I'm happy you're here. So, society often does give us these messages around saying no, that this is not the right thing to do, that it is our obligation not to say no. And yet, there are really positive elements of learning how to say no. And hold this to heart. When you say no, it implies you're saying yes to something else. If you say no to staying in and not accepting a social invitation, well, then you're saying yes to more sleep for yourself, or more quiet time, or more nourishing time for yourself. And so wherever we look at the no, no offers us increased mental stability. It is a form of self-care. It is a way to set boundaries that are healthy for us. And it's based on what we know about ourselves and what our needs are, what we value from ourselves to ourselves. Not this idea of obligation that we're receiving from the external world, because no one else knows how much gas you have in the tank of yourself. No one knows what your energy levels or your bandwidth is in any given moment. Only you know that. And so learning to set no is a really powerful way to prioritize your health, your happiness, and not just physical health, but mental health, emotional health, and spiritual health. And that's really vitally important to prioritize those so that you can be as happy as you are and live a harmonious, peaceful life. So, for those of us that have struggled to say no because of this narrative and story around that's not what good people do, we can rewrite that story. We don't have to maintain that narrative. We can choose to create a new narrative that's more healthy and healing for us at this moment where you are in your life. So there are ways to say no in a more easeful way. Saying no, I think, gets a bad rap because we think it has to be this like screaming, like no, fists in the air, but it's not that at all. Learn and practice ways of saying no and getting your point across without even feeling like you're causing any undue stress, or for sure you can say no and not cause the other person harm. And one exercise that may be helpful is to write out scripts. So let me give you an example. So an example would be the sandwich method. Maybe you've heard this like good news, bad news sandwich methodology over the course of your life. So start off with something positive, then include the no in this boundary setting, and then end with something positive. So positive, and then what you value is the no, and then positive. That's the sandwich method. So for instance, somebody invites you to a social obligation, right? And for whatever reasons that are your own, because your reasons I don't have to judge what those reasons are. You don't prefer to attend or participate in the social obligation, okay? So you don't have to just say, no, I don't want to go, or not even, no, thank you. Instead, you could try this and you could script it in your words. I'm just giving you a suggestion. Thank you so much for inviting me to this activity, event. Right now, I'm going to decline, but I look forward to being able to spend more time with you in the very near future. And so just feel how that lands. I mean, that felt really good to me. I didn't feel depleted. I didn't feel like I had to get worked up, and I didn't have to put boundaries that looked like this, an aggressive way, but instead I just spoke my truth. But I was grateful for the invitation, absolutely grateful. And I do want to spend more time with that person. Both things are true. And then also true, the part in the middle of the sandwich, is that right now, for this social obligation, I choose not to participate. So you can apply that in the work environment as well. When I was in a major consultancy as a senior executive, I was single with no children, and that very often meant that I would get asked to jump on a plane at the last minute over and over and over, because the assumption was that I could. I didn't have obligations to kids, PTA meetings, nothing of that nature. And so, of course, I could just go. And I did. I just said yes and yes and yes and yes to every single last minute stressful situation. I just did what was asked because I felt obligated to support my position in the company, to do the right thing, to give support to my team, to help accomplish the goal. All those reasons can be very justified and good. But over time, in talking to other women that were similar to myself, that were single and with no kids, we found that we were the ones that predominantly were asked to take these last minute flights and last minute business meetings, whereas other women that were married and with children were never even asked. And so I had to learn that my personal life also had value. Time, of course, is our greatest currency, right? So just because I could didn't mean I should say yes to every single time that the firm wanted me to just jump on a plane. Okay? And for someone else, if there was a PTA meeting or a child was sick, then there were no questions asked. Of course, that person needs to attend those things and attend to that child. But by saying yes all the time to these last minute trips and meetings, I found that I had no personal life. I had completely wiped off all of my leisure time. And if my desire was to meet someone, I was never going to meet anybody because I didn't have any time to do that. I was traveling 80% of the time at that point. So I had to reframe things and see in my mind, for my own worth, that setting a date to go to a yoga class was equal in importance. Setting date nights where I knew those were the 2 nights a week that I would accept invitations to go out with somebody, that those were sacred, and I would put boundaries around them. So that, yes, I would still go on a Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, but Tuesday, Friday, I would say no. I would just say no. And that allowed me to maintain my personal life and find the balance in my work life. So think about it. If whether it's in your home obligations, with social obligations, or in your work requirements, where are you the most hesitant to say no? Where is it easiest for you to say no? And why is that? Be curious to understand why that is. There's also a correlation between saying no and increased self-esteem and self-confidence. When we say no, we're standing up for ourselves. And the more you do that, the more you feel empowered and sovereign over yourself and your energy and the way that you live your life. But if you're just constantly saying yes, it can lower self-esteem, self-confidence, and you can just start to feel like a leaf being blown in the wind, whatever anybody else wants, just in a constant state of reactivity rather than driving, leading the experience of your life. Like, if you're always in the passenger seat in your life, then that's a problem. You should be equally spending time in the driver's seat, or the majority of the time in the driver's seat, leading your own life and taking yourself to where you want to go. So, talking about how we can find better ways to say no, the sandwich method, talking about the benefit to self-esteem and self-confidence, and that this is a form of boundary setting, what I like to call the love boundary, where when you say no, you're creating a boundary of what you value and how you value the use of your time. And so I gave the example of like just having time to have a social life, right? That was something I valued and that I needed to include for my work-life balance. And then the last thing is self-care. The relationship between saying this positive no and its effects on self-care. If you know that you're depleted, but you want to do the right thing, you feel compelled and obligated to say yes and yes and yes and helping everybody else first, you will absolutely take down all of the love account that you have in your energetic accounts. And without making more deposits in the love bank of yourself through self-care that requires some time and boundaries as well, then you'll run out of energy in order to help other people. It's no different than what they say on the airplane, right? Like, put the oxygen mask on you first. You're surviving, and then you can help the children and the elderly and those that are infirmed. But if you don't put that oxygen mask on yourself, then you're going to perish. And then there's no one to help those around that would benefit from your assistance. So saying no is, again, that implied yes to experiences and expressions of how you need to care for yourself. As a highly sensitive person, HSP, as an empath, as a clairsentient, I'm always in that feeling state. And on the Myers-Briggs test inventory, MBTI, I score ESTJ, extroverted is the E, but I'm right in the middle. I'm barely an E. Right there is the I. And I know that because I need time, alone time, quiet time, surrounded by people, but quiet, I need time to recharge. That is a really vitally important part of my self-care program. If I don't have that, then I get very depleted and I'm just not able to function as my best self. But when I'm not depleted and I'm feeling good and I'm making that time that's necessary, then my energy is contagious and I have so much more to share with everybody around me. I can elevate those around me, right? I can buoy them up, but only if I'm making self-care time for me. If I'm not only not good for myself, I'm not helpful to others. So make a list of what self-care looks like for you. And if you know that this is someplace that you would like support, I created something for you. It's the self-care support system. You have a month of self-care management. And in that, every single day, you have audio meditations, affirmations, journaling, a yoga class, mindfulness practices, so that you don't have to figure out, how do I take care of myself? Here are little things that you can do from home, lifetime access, and there are suggestions of in the 30-day self-care calendar that you can download from my website of things that you can do, a thing you can do every single day of the month to care for yourself. So if you're looking for ideas, that's like it's not even $20 to get a month of self-care support, and you have lifetime access. Because I know that for some of us, it's a struggle to think about how we want to receive. But without that, everything is going to fall apart. Saying no is not the answer to thinking that people are going to dislike you, or saying no is not going to cause people to disapprove of you. Saying no is not going to cause people to love you less. In actuality, people will respect and honor you more if they appreciate that you are mindfully declining and saying no in those moments that are best for you. We all desire models of behavior out there that show us how to find balance between our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with other people in the world around us. So learning to say no is not just for you, but it's actually such a wonderful thing to see and learn to mimic when you see other people doing it. So think about what are the key ways this week that you can say no. What are the key ways that you can say no this week using the sandwich method or coming up with a nice script for yourself that will say yes to you, will say yes to your boundaries, will say yes to supporting self-care and self-love. Just write down or think about 3. And then right now, as you take your hands to your heart, can you make that commitment to yourself? Take a big breath into that commitment. Open mouth, exhale. I think you can. I believe in you. I trust in you. And I know that this will do you a world of good. The power of the positive no. From my heart to your heart to the heart of the universe, may you love yourself, love your day, and love your life. And if inspired by this session, please click below and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you. I am ever so grateful when you do that, and it gives me great feedback to just be here in your great service. So have a beautiful day. Much love to you, and peace out, everybody.